Believe it or not, one of the most challenging aspects of sales is actually talking to people on the phone. Hey everybody, what's going on? It's Patrick Dang here. In this video, you're gonna learn how to close more sales over the phone. Now, I remember back when I first started my sales career, I did my first sales call and I was talking to a prospect over the phone and I really didn't know what to say and I was stuttering and I was like, and pretty much the person said, don't call me again, don't waste my time, I don't want to talk to you, right? And they just hung up the phone. And after that day, I remember vividly, it was the morning of that day around 8:30 in the morning. And then after this person's basically just completely shut me down and rejected me, my emotions were so down, I was so low, I was just done for the rest of the day. And I literally just like sat there and just thought about how bad that call went. So if you're new to sales, you might have found yourself in a similar situation. And even if you do have experience, sometimes you do have these bad calls every now and then. So in this video, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna share my top 3 tips to basically become better at selling over the phone to close more deals. Now, this is gonna be especially valuable for you if you're someone who does any type of B2B selling where you have to talk to somebody over the phone, right? You can be an entrepreneur, salesperson, business development. It doesn't matter. As long as you're talking to someone over the phone and you communicate with them, you're going to get a lot of value out of this video. And these tips that I'm going to give you in this video are going to be applicable to all types of industries, all types of products and services. They're going to be universal tips that you can use no matter what your sale is. And before we go ahead and dive into these tips, make sure you give this video a like and subscribe if you want to see new sales training videos every single week. Also, don't forget to hit that notification bell. And this is a brand new channel, so every like and subscribe really does go a long way. So with that said, let's go ahead and dive into my 3 tips to sell more over the phone. All right, so tip number 1 is gonna be tonality. When it comes to sales over the phone, tonality is everything. Let me go ahead and give you an example. So let's say I'm calling someone over the phone and I sound like this. Hey John, how's it going? My name's Patrick. How are you doing today? Right? Obviously, I'm kind of exaggerating it, but if you heard someone talk to you like that over the phone, you might laugh or you might not take this person seriously, right? That's a very stark difference from, me, how I normally am, which is, hey John, how's it going? It's Patrick. How are you doing today? Right? Very big difference from, hey John, how's it going? To, hey John, how's it going? So what exactly is going on here? And the thing is, studies have found that when you're talking to someone for the first time, the major factor that will determine whether or not someone will like you is actually your tonality. So it's not even about the words that you're actually saying. If you can't get your tonality part right, the person's not going to trust you and they're not going to like you. And people like to buy from people they like. So that's why it's incredibly important to be aware of your tonality and how you sound. Now, I want to emphasize that it's not about being fake. It's not about trying to sound something like you're not. You want to think of it like you're putting your best foot forward, right? The voice is essentially an instrument where you can talk high, low, or however you choose to talk depending on your situation. And even for me, when I was younger, I used to talk a lot more maybe nerdier or a lot higher, and it wasn't really that pleasant to the ear. And I remember back when I was younger, when I was a teenager, I used to watch a lot of interviews on The Breakfast Club where they would interviews like rappers and people in hip hop. I remember I heard Kanye West speak. Now, he was saying a lot of crazy things at the time, but the way he was saying it had so much confidence and so much energy that it was just like oozing out of him and really inspired people around him, right? And so I wanted to take a little bit of that and apply it to how I spoke. Also, I remember hearing Diplo speak, which is the producer, DJ. He had a really cool intellectual voice, and I really took inspiration from that. And not only those two, but many other people I've taken inspiration from to basically create how I sound, right? And essentially, I'm not trying to be fake. I'm not trying to be something I'm not. The voice is an instrument you can use to sound however you want. And when it comes to actually how I sound when I talk to customers over the phone, basically I have 3 go-to techniques or 3 go-to voices that I typically go to, and you can actually use this as inspiration to figure out which one works best for you, right? So the first voice that I use when I'm talking to a prospect over the phone, let's say I'm meeting them for the first time, is actually my positive voice. For the positive voice, I tend to have more energy, I tend to smile, and basically I get the person excited to talk to me and be interested in my products and services, right? So I could say something like, hey John, how's it going? It's Patrick. How you doing today? Right? So that's my positive voice. But you can see I'm a very positive person, right? Naturally. Now, usually I start out with the positive voice, and as the conversation continues, the person gets excited in buying my products and services. Sometimes I run run into objections where, things get a little more serious or there's a little conflict, right? And I have to overcome them. So then I'll switch from the positive voice into my cool voice, okay? So you want to think of the cool voice as like a radio voice late night, right? So I would say something like, hey, John, I understand that it's a little expensive, like you were saying, and, you might not have the budget for this right now, right? So, I'm just giving a random example of how I would handle objections, but you can kind of see the difference in the tonality. The first one was, hey, John, how's it going? This is Patrick. The cool voice is, hey, John, how's it going? This is Patrick. As you can see, the positive voice gets someone excited. The cool voice makes people feel calm, right? So I want to use those different tonalities depending on where I'm at in the sales situation. Usually I get them excited in the beginning, and then I use the cool voice when I come into any type of conflict or sales objection. Now, throughout the entire sales process, you're using different tonalities, but one technique that I really like to use is mirroring and matching. So essentially what that is you're observing the tonality and pacing and speed and energy that someone has as they're speaking over the phone, right? So if someone has a lot of high energy, what I want to do is I want to put my energy levels a lot higher, speak a little faster to kind of match their level, right? Now, if someone's speaking more calmly, like, hey, Patrick, how are you? Then I'm going to speak more calmly and say, hey, Julie, thanks for asking. I'm doing okay, right? So basically, if you match their tonality, subconsciously what people feel is that this person is just like me and he gets me, right? So when you make people feel that way, they trust you, they like you, and it's a lot more easy to communicate with them and, get them to a point where they're ready to buy. So to summarize tonality, there's a positive voice, there's a cool voice, and the entire time you also want to mirror and match and kind of match their levels of tonality so that you can build that trust and rapport. And remember, it's not being fake, it's putting your best foot forward. Okay, so now we're going to move to tip number 2 when it comes to closing sales over the phone, and that is using the 80-20 rule to ask more questions, okay? So the 80-20 rule essentially says that 80% of your results come from 20% of your actions, okay? So when you're talking to somebody over the phone, what you want to do is you want to ask questions and talk 20% of the time, and you want to let your prospect talk 80% of the time. So pretty much they're talking almost the entire time, right? And all you're kind of doing is guiding them into topics that you want to cover using questions. So for example, let's say you're talking to somebody over the phone, and one of the first questions you might ask is, so John, what got you interested in this call today? Right, something like that. And John might tell you, oh, I have this big problem on blah, 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 blah. And they talk more and more and more, right? And you listen. And you can ask more questions and go a little deeper and say, oh, that's pretty interesting. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? And they might talk a little bit more and tell you more problems. And you can ask more questions to dive even deeper. So for example, oh, that's really interesting. Has this always been a problem for you guys? Right? They can talk a little bit more. So you can ask more questions, dive even more deeper. And you could say, seems like you've been experiencing this problem for quite a while now. Have you done anything to actually try to solve it yet? Right? And they're going to keep talking more and more. And the reason why you want to do this is, what you want to do is during a sales meeting, you want to ask questions to uncover a prospect's pain, right? And then with that pain, what you want to do is position your product or service as a solution to that pain. So I actually have a whole other video on exactly how you can do this. Link is in the description, or it might be somewhere on the screen, and you can learn about how to uncover pain and then solve it with your solution. But for the sake of this video, the most important thing to take note is that you want to ask questions to uncover a customer's pain, because the more you learn about them, the more you're able to position your product or service as a solution, the more likely they will buy. So again, ask questions, talk 20% of the time, and let the prospect tell you their problems 80% of the time, and then come in at the end and solve all their problems, okay? And again, I got another video on that, so description or the link is somewhere on the screen. All right, so now we're gonna go into tip number 3, and I'm gonna actually get into some tactical closing techniques, okay? I know people love the techniques. They love to know exactly what to say and how to say it and things like that. And, personally for me, it's more about mindset. But for this video, I wanna give you some special techniques that I use personally myself, and I know they're gonna work for you. So let's say you're in a sales meeting and you're getting closer to the end of the call, right? So you already understand their problem. They're talking 80% of the time. You pitched your product or service and show them that you can solve their problems. And then from there, you want to move forward with the deal and actually close it, right? So one thing that I like to do is this. Towards the end of the meeting, I'll say something like, hey, Sally, based on everything that we talked about so far, is there anything else you need to see before you make a decision? So I'm going to repeat that again. Hey, Sally, based on everything that we talked about so far, is there anything else you need to see before making a decision? So as you can see, what I'm doing here is that after I did my pitch, I asked that question, right? So I'm trying to understand how interested Sally is in my product or service. Now, if there are more things that she needs to see before she makes a decision, right there because I asked a question. She's going to tell me. She might say something like, oh, I need to make sure that it integrates with this other software. Oh, I need to make sure, how long will it take before we actually implement it and use it in our business? How long will it take before we actually get results, right? These are some of the questions or maybe even objections that might come up. And this is great because you're uncovering these objections. And because Sally or whoever you're talking to is telling them to you because you asked the question, then you can answer those questions immediately and give answers, right? So once you ask the question, Sally will tell you all the things that she needs to see before she makes a decision. You answer all these things and then you ask again. So, okay, Sally, so we covered all the things that you wanted to cover. Is there anything else you need to see before you make the decision, right? Sally might say, nope, that's it, we're ready to go. Or Sally might say, oh, there are a couple other things that we may need to talk about, and then you continue with that process, right? That's essentially how you close. You look for all the pieces that need to be unblocked, and then you get Sally to tell you what those pieces are, and then you unblock them, and then Sally's ready to buy. Now, in situations where, let's say the person doesn't necessarily give you a clear answer and it's very vague, right? What I like to do is I like to use the 1 to 10 close. So I'll say something like, hey, Sally, based on everything we talked about so far, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being not interested at all, and 10 being you're ready to buy right now, where do you think we're landing right here? And Sally might say, oh, we're kind of at a 7 right now. Then I would say, okay, 7, not too bad. I'm just curious, right now we're at a 7, but what would it take for you to actually get to a 10? And then Sally will tell you exactly what she needs to see to get to that 10. And then you just go one by one and inching closer, closer, closer. And then once you answer some of the questions, you ask again, okay, so based on, 1 out of 10, where are you at right now? Sally might say 9, right? And then you say, okay, well, what's that one more step that we need to do before we get to that 10? And then she'll tell you and you answer it, right? Eventually, you keep doing that until Sally or whoever you're talking to actually gets to that 10, and then Sally is ready to buy your product or service. And then you ask them, okay, so we're at 10, what would you like to do now? Sally's gonna say, I would like to move forward. What's the next step? From there, you just say, okay, this is the contract, this is what we do, blah, 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 right? So essentially, all you're really doing is just inching them closer and closer to getting to a 10 out of 10. And then once they're at that 10, they're ready to buy. And one thing about these closing techniques is that they're not going to work unless you get the first 2 steps right, which is essentially getting your tonality right, making sure the prospect trusts you and you have that rapport with them. And number 2, making sure you're asking great questions and allowing the prospect to talk 80% of the time. Then you're actually setting yourself up for an easier close towards the end. And then you can use the techniques of, the 1 out of 10 close, or, what else do you need to see before making a decision? And then from there, you can actually close the sale. So in conclusion, those are going to be my top 3 sales tips to close more deals over the phone. The first one was tonality, making sure you're building trust and rapport with the prospect by how you sound. And of course, you decide how you want to sound to make it more pleasant to their ear. Number 2, making sure you ask questions, let the prospect tell you their problems. And number 3, use these closing techniques to actually move forward with the deal. So with that said, if you made it to the end of this video, I want to let you know that I appreciate you and thank you for watching. I really do hope you got a lot of value and a lot of tips that you can apply right away. Now, if you haven't already, go ahead and leave a like on this video because every like does count as it's a new channel and it really helps this video reach new audiences. And if you want to see new videos every single week, go ahead and subscribe and turn on notifications. And one last thing, in the comments, go ahead and leave your #1 sales challenge because I do look at these, I respond to every comment, and I do incorporate them into my future videos. So if you have a sales challenge, go ahead and leave it in the comments below so I can get some inspiration and create more videos for you. So with that said, I hope you guys really got some value out of this video. My name is Patrick Deng, and I'm gonna see you guys in the next one.